Hello everyone, welcome to Crown by KO. My name is Dewan and I'm grateful to have you tuning into this video. As we go through the content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the page, share it with your friends. Thank you in advance for doing all of that. So today, I really want to take some time to just talk about education. I want to talk about the ways that we learn and really what we're feeding our minds with. As people, we're naturally social beings, and I truly believe that we learn a lot just by the things that we observe around us. Sometimes we notice it, but then sometimes we don't. And I really think that the environments we put ourselves in and everything that we're just, again, observing around us really teaches us more than we may recognize. And what I want to try to really explain and point out today is an educational method that is very similar to the social learning theory. The only big difference, I believe, is that this happens more unintentionally than it does intentionally. And I believe that happens because most of the things that we're observing and learning really sits in our subconscious, since it's not really intentionally being learned and sought after by us. And I know this is true because I can recite songs, movies, a bunch of stuff that I probably didn't even recognize that I knew, but I could still recite it because, again, it gets into my subconscious. And it was actually my wife who pointed this out to me. We will be at home and she could probably sing part of a song. All day, that song is going to be stuck in my head. And then vice versa. I know we will watch a movie and then maybe a week or two later, I'll just randomly recite a line of that movie because, again, I've learned it. It was what was in my environment. I soaked it in. And even though it was unintentional, I remember it and now I'm acting on it, right? So that really brings me to what I want to talk about today. And it's really how we are constantly being educated by the things we soak in around us. It can be anything that we watch on TV. It could be the music. It could be video games. It could be podcasts, these YouTube channels, everything. We're constantly learning from them and we're constantly soaking it in. We are in a society where everything around us is feeding our minds. Social media, TikTok, all of these things. So my thing is this, and this is the principle that I want to share today. We really have to pay attention to what we're exposing ourselves to and open our minds up to. There is more than enough evidence out there that shows us music, for an example, how music affects us. So if it's a slow, mellow, groovy type of song, we'll be chill, right? We'll be calm. But if it's a hardcore, violent type of song with a nice, beat or something that's just upgoing, it excites you. It gets you worked up. So if we see these studies and we know how music is playing with our subconscious, then we need to really recognize how other things may be doing that too. And it's the same with children. They may see something on a movie or video game, and we call them daredevils because now they want to go and practice what they just saw. They see somebody jump off a building. Unfortunately, those kids gonna think they can fly too and try and jump off that building. But that's how this social learning theory works, and this is how we're educating ourselves by simply what we're exposing ourselves to, what we're opening our minds to, and really, normally, the thing that you end up remembering is sometimes the thing that stands out the most from everything else, right? It may be something that provides comedic relief. It may be something that plays on your feelings and puts you in your emotions, right? It may be something that is just shocking and like you just baffled by it. Like it comes up and it's so outlandish that you sit there and you say to yourself, what? Like, why would they even... I can't believe this. Like, those are the type of things that stick with you because it's kind of sort of like a shock factor in a sense. So everything you hear is really feeding your mind. And most times people act based off what they have in their head. So that's why education is so important, because you can only live based off what you know. You can only live based off the information you have or the knowledge that you have about certain things. This is why so many people become products of their environment. We say it all the time, and we see it all the time because there is no outside teaching. And if that's the only thing they know, then eventually that's going to be the only thing that they end up doing. So you really start to live and act based on or because of what's around you. If that's the only thing you know to do, then that's what you're going to do. I truly believe that, which is again why I say that we need to watch what we expose ourselves to, and how we're opening ourselves up in these different environments, or to these different things that may exist in our environment. So watch your surroundings. But again, that will influence you in one way. And if you are watching what's influencing you and cutting certain things off or stopping certain things, then you also have to replace it with something else. So the second part of this is to find new ways to learn. Find new environments to put yourself in. Find new books to read. Find new people to talk to. Like, you have to constantly be learning. When I was growing up, I would hear a lot of comparisons about people that we would consider street smart versus those who were considered book smart, right? So if you're street smart, that means you understand your environment. You understand what's going on around you, the neighborhood. You understand the streets. You understand the street code. But if you book smart, you more so just, understand the education system. You're really good at tests. You understand how to be a good student. And it was always, are you book smart? Are you street smart? Are you both? But again, it gets to, what do you allow to enter your mind, and what are you soaking up based on the different environments that you're in? We know a lot of people who were in school that just did not pay attention. But when they were out playing and exploring the neighborhood, or, living, they were paying attention. They were soaking in those experiences. So they were becoming more world or street smart than they were book smart. So again, it proves that subconsciously we're observing and internalizing a lot of things that we will eventually act off. So that brings me to this story that my pastor, he tells a lot of stories. One time, my pastor was telling us about how life is in Mississippi. I say is because we know that there's a lot of things about Mississippi that hasn't really changed. But he would talk about the education system and how it worked back then, after slavery, during segregation times. And he would say that teachers were only allowed to teach up to the grade that they completed. So if you made it through 6th grade and then dropped out, you could only teach up to 6th grade, right? So that proves my point that you will only understand, or you can only live based off of what you know. A person who's only had a 6th grade education cannot teach a person how to live as a college graduate. They can't teach a person how to live as a high school graduate. And it's sad because they shouldn't have stopped learning, right? They should have kept learning even if they dropped out. But again, this story stuck with me because it had that shock factor. It had that one thing that was like really interesting and stood out, like, only 6th grade? My thing is this. We know that learning and education does not stop in the classroom, right? We know that it's not only limited to school. We learn by everything else that we experience in life. Truth be told, I've learned more outside of the classroom, outside of school, than I did inside. I've learned from my family. I learned from my church, my friends. I've learned from the Bible. I've learned from experience in school, like going to college, but not necessarily what I was learning in the classrooms when it came to that. I've learned from all of these things, but the least amount of learning I can really think back on and grab onto is school. Now, I'm not talking down on the school system at all, but I do believe that the school system needs to be better. If we're just expecting school to teach foundational things and principles on how to live, then it needs to be more real life application happening in the schools. How can you take these studies and apply them to your life? I have yet to use what I learned in AP Calc. I don't really know how I can apply AP Calculus in my life right now, but if there's a way, please let me know. But again, where is the real life application? How are we applying the knowledge that we have? And I truly believe that knowledge is power. But in order to exercise that power or operate in that power, you have to use the knowledge. It won't work if you don't use it, right? So God told us something in the Bible that I believe really points this out. He told us two things. The first thing is this. He said that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And destroyed means to be cut off from, to cease, or to be ruined, right? Now, we see that happening in society right now. We have people who are experiencing poverty. We have people who are having their businesses fail. We have marriages that are failing, not all because, but I sincerely believe a large part of it is because they just lack the knowledge, and they don't have the knowledge to overcome what they're dealing with. And it's really as simple as this. When you know better, you do better, right? However, it's too many people that aren't aware of how much the things around them are influencing them and training them and teaching them, and they're acting off those things, not knowing why they're getting the results that they're getting. But in order to do better, you have to know better. So my thing is, how often are we going out and educating ourselves in different ways? How often are we going out to find new ways to change our situations and getting in new environments so it could possibly spark a different idea or interest? Are we defaulting and going back to what we know and what we see the people around us doing? Or are we really exploring and looking for a better way? I believe that everyone should always be looking for more ways to learn. They should always be trying to gain knowledge. The only thing you're doing with gaining knowledge is gaining more power. Because again, I believe that knowledge is power. This is what the Bible says in another verse. This is from the book of Proverbs, which is called, the book of wisdom. And it says this: wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. So not just the wisdom, but the understanding of everything as well. So wisdom, to me, in the simplest form, is the application of knowledge. It is basically your skills, is your wit. How are you exercising the knowledge that you have? So God is telling us the foundational thing is to exercise the knowledge. Exercise what you know. And as you do that, you'll become more skillful. But as you become more skillful, constantly be looking to learn and understand from these different situations you find yourself in, or from these different systems you come up against, so that you can build on that experience and you can consistently get better and better and continue to progress. It will only help you grow and become better in the long run, right? So what's the harm in that? Again, it's a biblical principle that's applicable to any life. And really, that's how royalty lives. That is how kings and queens live. And since you've been crowned or trying to live the crown life, you have to learn to live that way. It's about what you're exposing yourself and opening yourself up to, but it's also about how you're finding ways to learn. How are you learning? And then when you learn something, how are you applying that learning? How are you becoming more skillful? That is what it's all about. That is how you're going to progress. That is how people get better at the crafts that they have. So you can have a gift, but how are you exercising that gift? Or you can be naturally good at something, but then how are you exercising that? How are you becoming better? How are you finding easier ways to do it, better ways to do it, and perfecting that craft again? But before I end, I really just want to make this statement. We need to stop letting people tell people that wisdom comes with age. That's a lie. It's not true. Wisdom doesn't come with age. Wisdom, in fact, just comes with knowledge. It's the application of knowledge. Wisdom comes with knowing God. We know God is the ruler. He's the creator of everything. And he is the king. And if we're living in a kingdom, what better way to learn how the kingdom operates than to talk to the king and spend time with the king himself? That is the easiest way. And since you have a relationship with him, since you are in fellowship with him and praying and all of these other things, he will freely give it to you. He will freely share everything with you. So now you're learning how the system works. You're learning how this works, how that works. You're gaining this wisdom, this knowledge, and you're getting it straight from the source. You're getting it from the person who created it. Who know better how a game system works or how a car operates than the person who built it, who created it, right? It's the same thing with God. How can you know how to live in this world? Be close to the person who created it. They'll give you all of the secrets. They'll give you all of the keys. They'll give you all of these principles to be able to operate on, right? So if you really want wisdom, the best way to get it is to connect to God, because he is the giver of all things. And I truly believe that. And I know that he'll freely share it with you, because that's an attribute of his love, freely giving. So that's all I have today. But again, Education. I can't stress it enough. Watch what you're exposing yourself to and make sure you're learning in new ways. Please, if you never hear from me again, as you go on with your day, your week, your life, just remember this one thing. The purpose of life is to live. All right? If you're not living, you're really not doing nothing. Peace.